Good morning, dear students. Welcome to LSC course video lecture series. And this video is video 4 from module 2. And you have already known what these modules are. And the syllabus for our LSC course Language Skills for Engineers is divided into different modules. And altogether you do have 6 modules. And my session 5 is part of module 2, which does have 3 video lectures, and this is video lecture 4. And module 2 deals with vocabulary and word precision, under which we are going to have an exposure towards explaining technical ideas to non-technical audiences. Then what is this? What is this vocabulary? You have already known vocabulary is nothing but the words. How well we are going to make use of words, because we have to differentiate between the normal usage of language, English, as well as it's being used in professional way. So let's have a full focus on what is the difference between a technical knowledge, a professional English, as well as the normal. And here in this particular video, we are going to get into explaining technical ideas to non-technical audiences. Once you complete this particular video, by the end of this video, what is the outcome? Here, as you are focusing for 10 minutes, as you are attending for 10 minutes video lecture, there should be something which you are going to take away, right? Which you are going to bag out, right? So here this is your learning outcome. One is you are able to identify technical and non-technical audiences. Maybe you don't have the difference between, you don't know the difference between who are technical audience and who are non-technical audiences. So by the end of this video lecture, you do understand who are called as technical audiences and then who are non-technical audiences. And then the next one, the next learning outcome from this video lecture is simplify technical concepts using plain English, because when you start using of heavy like jargons, the specified terms, then maybe sometimes it couldn't reach to the audience well. So how to simplify technical concepts by using very plain language like day-to-day normal usage of English, and then choose vocabulary appropriate for different audiences, because you can't make use of the same terms and the same vocabulary for the people who are from different backgrounds, right? So finally you can identify what kind of appropriate vocabulary you can make use of for the different audiences, and then prepare for the classroom plain English rewrite activity. So once you got an exposure towards this video lecture, then when you go to the class, regular class, then your work would be cakewalk for you. And then let me start my session with one activity. Like, you have invented a smart irrigation system. Just imagine that as part of your activity or as part of your project, you might have invented a smart irrigation system. Now what you have to do is you have to explain it to a professor, because it has to be approved by your professor, right? You need to explain it to your professor. And then the other one is, as it is related to farmers, as it is a smart irrigation system, right? Then how are you going to explain it to a farmer? And then how are you going to explain the same concept to a 10-year-old child? Maybe you do have a sibling or your cousins could be there at home, and you want to just show off your achievement. Then how are you going to explain it to a small child? Because here, by looking at this, you can understand that you are not going to make use of the same language and the same vocabulary in all these three audiences, right? Because they are all with different backgrounds. Like, maybe you are not going to make use of the same language that you put up before your professor, because it requires a kind of professional language. But when you are going to explain the same thing to a farmer, because he couldn't understand the technical terms, he couldn't understand the vocabulary, so you have to make use of some different type of vocabulary. And then when it is coming to a 10-year-old child, maybe you can't explain it like how you have done to a farmer as well as a professor, because a child, it has to be like a kind of narration, like a story, something like that, right? Are you going to? Now, We are going to explain the same concept in the classroom. Now, are you going to explain for all the three in the same way? No, not at all. Right? The technology is the same because you might have used the same technology for inventing that particular smart irrigation system. The technology is the same, but here the audience is different. Effective engineers don't change the technology, they change the way they explain it because you shouldn't lose that. So, how are you going to make use of your vocabulary in successfully explaining for the three audiences? So, before we begin, just try to have your student vocabulary handbook with you. Okay, it is already provided. Refer to the handbook at first. Later, compare technical and plain English words because already it's there in the vocabulary list. Compare technical and plain English words. In the next slide, I am going to explain you, okay, with examples also. And then observe the examples because examples are provided for your better understanding, dear students. And later, you can identify useful vocabulary because out of the vocabulary bank or the vocabulary list, you might have come across some words which are related to this particular example, and then add new words to your professional word bank because you do have some word bank, right? So now what you have to do is you have to add some more words to your vocabulary bank. Maybe you are going to come across some new terms, new vocabulary which is going to enrich your vocabulary bank. After watching this video, you are provided with a quiz on our LMS. So please complete the LMS quiz and prepare for the plain English rewrite activity in the class. As this is going to be a kind of warm up for you all, right? So keep it in mind that you need to get ready for writing a rewrite activity in the classroom, right? Hopefully you are able to follow me. Now, first of all, know your audience because here the concept is identifying the different audience, and then as per the audience you are going to make use of your vocabulary. You are going to make certain changes in your vocabulary. Now guys, you can see the audience here, like your audience, one is a farmer, another one is a child, and the third one is your professor. Like when you have the segregation of the audience, like when you are talking to an engineer, sometimes you need to interact with some teachers, your clients who have given you that particular project, or sometimes you need to interact with the customers or sometimes children. Then when you are making use of your vocabulary to an engineer, then how are you going to explain it? What kind of vocabulary you are going to make use of? It might be where you have to use technical vocabulary because engineers, they require some sound technical vocabulary so that they can understand deeply because they are all engineers, right? Where you have to make use of jargons. Try to identify the term jargon, dear students, because jargon is nothing but the technical terms in a specified field. And then when you are explaining the same thing to teachers, maybe you can't imagine that the teachers might be having some technical or engineering background. So in general, when you are explaining it to teachers, then how are you going to explain? Like you have to use technical terms with brief explanations. Why you have to use some brief, very simple explanation? Because when you start explaining it in a brief manner, they do understand. Here you can make use of some technical terms, but maybe they are unfamiliar with those terms, but with your brief explanation, they do understand because they are all teachers, right? They can understand. When you are explaining the same thing to your clients, use simple professional language because here professional language is required because you are explaining it to your clients. They require these terms. And then when you are just explaining it to your customers, like maybe a farmer, who would be the customers for marketing that smart irrigation? It can be farmers, right? So when you are explaining it to farmers, you have to use very simple plain English because Only with that language they do understand, like day-to-day usage of language. And then when you are using the same kind of explanation to a child, use everyday words with examples. Examples will provide better understanding, right? So this is the way you can explain. The first of all, what you have to do is you have to know your audience. And here are the four ways to simplify technical ideas. One is replace the technical words, because not technical words can be used always. Like you can replace the technical words step by step method, and then avoid unnecessary jargons. Like when you are using in daily way, try to avoid jargons, the specified terms, and then use familiar examples. That's what I have been telling you, dear students. When you make use of your familiar examples, absolutely it goes and it reaches to the audience, because it requires some sort of explanation through examples, day-to-day examples or live examples. And then explain the purpose before the process. Before you start explaining that particular idea, try to identify the audience, and as per the audience, try to explain what is the purpose of explaining such things. Okay, instead of the application uses machine learning. For example, here you can see the statement. Instead of using the statement like the application uses machine learning, you can simply say the application learns from previous data to make better decisions. Because the second one, it's not a very plain English, it has some kind of technical terms, but here it gives a kind of uh, what do we call, they can understand better. And then coming to technical versus plain English, here you can see the different branches, what their technical explanation, and the same thing how it can be converted into the plain English explanation. First of all, CSE people, they use algorithm authenticates users. Like instead of using algorithm, you can simply say the program checks whether the user is genuine. In ECE, the amplifier increases the signal strength. Amplifier, okay, the technical terms. But here in plain English, what do we say? The device makes the signal stronger. Okay, for mechanical people, the gearbox transmits torque to the wheels. When it comes to the general day-to-day usage, what do we say? The gearbox transfers power to help the wheels move. And coming to civil, reinforced concrete improves structural stability. Steel bars make the concrete structure stronger and safer. And coming to biotechnology, fermentation converts sugars into useful products. Microorganisms change sugar into products like yogurt or medicine. When you give such examples, okay, then they do understand better. And here is the difference between technical versus plain English. Like technical engineering example is given, naval arc language is given. Okay, so finally here you do have a mini case study. Like a situation is present, an engineer is explaining a water purification machine to villagers. Now look at the version A and version B. Version A is the filtration mechanism removes microbial contaminants through membrane separation. When it comes to the version B, the filter removes harmful germs from the water, making it safe to drink. So here the second one, which does reach to the audience well? Is it the explanation version A or B? So absolutely version B, because it matches the audience. So even here you are provided some engineer's toolbox terms, and it is forever self-check. And before coming to class, make sure that you read today's section in the student handbook, practice converting technical terms into plain English, add 10 new words to your professional word bank, complete the LMS quiz, be ready for the plain English rewrite activity in the class. So here are the key takeaways. First of all, the key concept that you have to keep in mind while you are attending this session is know your audience at first. Use technical vocabulary with experts. Use plain English with non-specialists like technical audiences and non-technical audience. Because that's about our session, right? That's about our video lecture today. So this is regarding explaining technical ideas to non-technical audiences. See you in the classroom. Be ready to discuss your examples and share your vocabulary discoveries. Thank you guys. Have a good day.